You clicked on this video because something inside you already knows the truth. Pain is not your enemy. It never was. The weight you carry, the scars you hide, the memories that still sting when the world gets quiet, they are not proof that you are broken. They are proof that you are being forged. And by the end of this video, you will see your suffering in a way you never have before. But let me ask you something first. Why is it that two people can live through the same terrible experience, and one of them crumbles while the other rises? What separates the person who is destroyed by their past from the person who somehow turns that darkness into light? Is it luck? Is it genetics? Or is there something deeper going on, something that lives inside every single one of us, waiting to be unlocked? That question is the doorway to everything we are about to explore together. Let us start with an uncomfortable truth. We live in a world that is obsessed with happiness. Scroll through any social media feed and you will see it. Smile more. Think positive. Good vibes only. And on the surface, that sounds wonderful. Who does not want to be happy? But here is the problem. When you build your entire life around chasing happiness, you accidentally turn pain into the villain. You start to believe that if you are hurting, something is wrong with you. That if life feels heavy, you must be failing. And that belief, that quiet, invisible belief, is one of the most destructive ideas a human being can carry. Because pain is not a sign that something is wrong. Pain is a signal. It is your mind and your body trying to tell you something important. Think of it like a compass. When you touch a hot stove, the pain is not punishment. It is information. It is your nervous system screaming, "Move your hand." And emotional pain works the exact same way. When your heart aches after a loss, when your chest tightens with anxiety, when old wounds flare up without warning, those feelings are not random. They are directions. They are pointing you towards something that matters. But most of us were never taught how to read the map. We were handed a world full of signals and given no instructions for how to interpret them. Instead, we were taught to run, to distract ourselves, to numb the ache with whatever is closest. Food, work, screens, relationships, anything to avoid sitting with the discomfort. And that avoidance, that constant running, is what actually keeps people stuck. Not the pain itself, the running from it. There is a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth, and it changes everything we think we know about suffering. Most people have heard of post-traumatic stress. That is when a painful experience leaves lasting damage, nightmares, flashbacks, a constant sense of dread. And that is real. That is valid. No one should minimize that. But what researchers discovered over the last few decades is that trauma does not always lead to destruction. In fact, in study after study, people who face tremendous hardship actually come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more connected to what matters. Not in spite of their pain, but because of it. The research shows that post-traumatic growth tends to show up in 5 areas. People develop a deeper appreciation for life. They discover new possibilities they never would have considered before. Their relationships become more meaningful. They feel a greater sense of personal strength. And perhaps most importantly, they experience a shift in their spiritual or philosophical understanding of the world. In other words, they do not just survive, they expand. Imagine a bone that breaks and then heals. The spot where it broke becomes denser, tougher than the bone around it. The fracture point becomes the strongest part. That is not just a metaphor. That is what happens inside the human spirit when pain is met with awareness instead of avoidance. But here is where it gets interesting and a little controversial. The growth does not happen automatically. You do not just suffer and then magically become a better person. That is a fantasy. Growth requires a very specific ingredient, and that ingredient is meaning. You have to look at your pain and ask it a question. What are you trying to teach me? That sounds simple. It is not. Because when you are in the middle of it, when the grief is fresh or the betrayal is still burning, the last thing you want to do is search for a lesson. You want it to stop. You want relief. And that is completely human. But the ones who transform, the ones who take their suffering and turn it into something powerful, they are the ones who eventually sit down with their pain and have that conversation. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a person, let us call them a composite, a blend of many real experiences. This person grew up in a home where love was conditional. Approval had to be earned. Mistakes were punished, not with violence, but with silence, the cold shoulder, the withdrawal of affection. And over time, this person learned a devastating lesson. I am only worthy of love when I am perfect. Now fast forward 20 years. This person is successful on the outside. Good career, nice apartment, friends who admire them. But on the inside, they are exhausted because they have spent their entire life performing. Every relationship is a stage. Every conversation is an audition. And the anxiety never stops because perfection is a moving target. You can never reach it. You can only chase it until you collapse. And the worst part? They do not even realize why they are so tired. They think the problem is that they are not trying hard enough. So they push harder. They do more. They say yes when they mean no. They smile when they want to scream. And the gap between who they are and who they pretend to be grows wider every single day, until one morning they wake up and realize they do not even recognize the person staring back at them in the mirror. This is what unexamined pain does. It does not disappear. It disguises itself. It becomes patterns, habits, beliefs that run in the background like invisible software, shaping every decision, every reaction, every relationship. And the person does not even know it is happening. They just know that something feels off, that life is harder than it should be, that they are tired in a way that sleep cannot fix. Now here is the turning point. What happens when this person stops running? What happens when they finally sit down, look at that old wound, and say, I see you. I see where you came from. I understand why I built these walls, and I am ready to do something different. That is the moment of alchemy. That is where the transformation begins, and it does not look the way you might expect. It is not a dramatic breakthrough with violins playing in the background. It is quiet. It is messy. Sometimes it looks like crying on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. Sometimes it looks like finally saying the words you have been holding in for years. Sometimes it looks like choosing to stay present when every instinct tells you to go numb. The alchemy of the soul is not glamorous, but it is the most powerful process a human being can undergo. See, the ancient alchemists had this dream of turning lead into gold. They spent their whole lives trying to transform something heavy and worthless into something precious, and most people think they failed. But the real alchemists, the ones who understood the deeper meaning, knew that the lead was never about metal. The lead was a symbol for suffering, for the heavy, dark, burdensome parts of being human. And the gold was not wealth. The gold was wisdom, understanding, the kind of inner richness that no one can take from you. That is exactly what you are doing when you face your pain with courage. You are not erasing it. You are not pretending it did not happen. You are transmuting it. You are taking something that felt like poison and discovering that it was medicine all along. And this is where most self-help advice gets it wrong. They tell you to let go, release the past, move on. And those are beautiful words, but they skip the most important step. Before you can let go of anything, you have to pick it up first. You have to hold it. You have to look at it clearly, without flinching, without judging yourself, without rushing to a conclusion. You have to sit with the weight before you can put it down. Think of it like diving for pearls. The pearl does not float on the surface. It is hidden deep, in the ocean, inside something rough and unappealing. You have to be willing to dive down into the dark water, hold your breath, feel the pressure, and reach into the unknown. That is what real healing looks like. It is not pretty. It is not comfortable. But what you bring back to the surface is priceless. And there is something else that happens when you dive that deep. You discover that you can survive it, that the darkness you were so afraid of was not as all-consuming as you imagined, that you are capable of holding more than you ever gave yourself credit for. And that knowledge, that lived experience of facing what terrified you and coming through the other side, that becomes the foundation for everything you build going forward. Because confidence is not built on success. Real confidence, the unshakable kind, is built on survival, on knowing that you walked through fire and did not burn away. Now, let us talk about something that people rarely discuss, the identity crisis that comes with healing. Because here is what no one warns you about. When you start to change, when you start to peel away the old patterns and beliefs, you will feel lost. You will feel like you do not know who you are anymore, and that is terrifying. If your whole life has been organized around avoiding pain, and you suddenly stop avoiding it, then who are you? If your identity was built on being the strong one, the one who never cries, the one who holds it all together, and you finally let yourself fall apart, what is left? The answer is everything. Everything real. Everything that was hiding underneath the armor. But you will not see that right away. First, you will feel the emptiness, the gap between who you were and who you are becoming. And in that gap, the old voices will get loud. They will tell you to go back, to rebuild the walls, to put the mask back on, because at least that version of you was familiar. At least that version knew the rules. But familiar is not the same as healthy, and comfortable is not the same as alive. There is a term that psychologists use called trait introspection. It is the practice of looking inward, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself, to study your own patterns the way a scientist studies data, without attachment, without shame, just curiosity. And when you bring that kind of awareness to your pain, something remarkable happens. You start to see the architecture of your suffering. You see how one wound connects to another, how a belief you formed at age 7 shaped a decision you made at age 30, how the armor you built to protect yourself ended up becoming the prison that trapped you. And in that seeing, in that clear-eyed recognition of what is really going on, the chains begin to loosen. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, steadily, the way dawn pushes back the darkness, 1 degree of light at a time. This is the climax of the journey. This is the moment where the pressure is at its peak. You are standing between 2 versions of yourself. The old you, built on survival, on fear, on patterns that kept you safe but kept you small. And the new you, still forming, still fragile, still uncertain, but undeniably more real than anything you have ever felt. And here is what I need you to understand. You do not have to choose perfectly. You do not have to have it all figured out. The transformation is not a single moment. It is a direction. It is the decision to keep walking forward, even when every cell in your body is screaming to turn back. It is choosing discomfort over numbness, truth over performance, depth over distraction. The people who have gone through the deepest pain and come out transformed, they will all tell you the same thing. They would not trade their suffering for anything, not because they enjoyed it, not because they are grateful for the cruelty or the loss or the heartbreak, but because without it, they would never have found the version of themselves that was waiting on the other side. There is a Japanese art form called kintsugi. When a piece of pottery breaks, instead of throwing it away or trying to hide the cracks, the artist fills them with gold. The broken places become the most beautiful part of the piece. The damage is not concealed. It is illuminated. It is celebrated. Because the history of the object, the story of its breaking and its repair, is what makes it valuable. You are that piece of pottery. Your cracks are not flaws. They are the places where the light gets in. They are the chapters of your story that give it meaning and weight and truth. And when you stop trying to hide them, when you stop apologizing for your scars, something incredible happens. Other people start to feel safe around you. They see your honesty and they exhale. They think, if this person can be real about their pain, maybe I can be real about mine. That is the ripple effect of transformation. It does not stop with you. When you alchemize your suffering, you give permission to everyone around you to do the same. Your healing becomes a lighthouse, not because you are perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because you had the courage to stop pretending. And I think that is what the world needs more of right now. Not more people who have it all figured out, not more polished, filtered versions of reality. The world needs people who are brave enough to be honest about their struggle. People who can stand in the middle of their mess and say, yes, this is hard, and I am still here. That kind of vulnerability is not weakness. It is the rarest form of strength there is. Because when you think about the people who have moved you most in your life, the ones whose words stayed with you, whose presence changed you, they were almost never the people who had the perfect story. They were the ones who told the truth, the ones who let you see behind the curtain, the ones who showed you that being human is not about avoiding pain. It is about learning how to carry it with grace, and then, when the time is right, learning how to set it down. So where does that leave you right now? Maybe you are at the beginning of this journey. Maybe you are in the middle of it, in that uncomfortable gap where nothing feels solid. Or maybe you are further along than you think, and you just needed someone to remind you that you are on the right path. Wherever you are, I want you to carry this with you. Your pain is not a punishment. It is not proof that life is unfair or that you are unlucky. Your pain is raw material. It is the lead waiting to become gold. And the alchemy does not require magic or special talent or a perfect childhood. It requires one thing: the willingness to feel what you have been avoiding, to look where you have been turning away, and to trust that what you find there will not destroy you. It will define you. And if you are sitting there thinking, that sounds nice, but you do not understand my situation, let me say this. You are right. I do not know the specifics of your pain. I do not know the names or the dates or the details that keep you up at night. But I do know this. Every person who has ever transformed their suffering into something beautiful started in the same place you are right now, uncertain, afraid, wondering if it was even possible. And they took the first step anyway, not because they were brave, but because staying where they were had become more painful than moving forward. That is the secret no one talks about. You do not need to be ready. You do not need to feel brave. You just need to be more tired of hiding than you are afraid of being seen. Not in the way the world defines strength, with clenched fists and a stiff upper lip, but in the way the ocean defines strength. By being deep enough to hold everything. By being powerful enough to move slowly. By being vast enough that even the heaviest stone sinks into it and becomes part of something larger. You are deeper than you know. You are stronger than your worst day. And the pain you carry is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the most important chapter you will ever write. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Let it land. Let it settle somewhere real inside you. Not in your head, where it becomes another idea to analyze, but in your chest, where it becomes something you feel. Because knowing this and feeling this are two very different things, and your transformation will not come from understanding the concept. It will come from living it, one honest moment at a time. And if this resonated with you, if something in these words touched a nerve or opened a door, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Not for me, but for yourself. So you keep showing up for this kind of content, for this kind of thinking, for this kind of growth. Drop a comment below and tell me about a moment when your pain became your teacher. I read every single one. And share this with someone who needs to hear it right now. Because chances are, someone in your life is carrying weight they do not have to carry alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I will see you in the next one.